Okay, I think we are live.
Oh,
Ashley, hello, hello, hello.
hello, Debbie.
I'm so excited for this conversation. It got put off a little bit. Ashley is actually one of the co-creators inside of this, the Be Extraordinary Women's Network. And we tried a little bit to kind of get us into the front just so people understood who it was that and what our hearts were all about and why we were creating this. And Ashley has an amazing ability to kind of dance through life, but juggle a lot of balls. So, Ashley, I know that you are a homeschool mom. You are also a teacher, a dance instructor, and many other things. But why don't you first talk about where you're coming in from and then just share a little bit about yourself as well?
Yes, I am so excited to share this. Yeah, I'm a dance teacher. I'm a homeschool mom. I am an entrepreneur at heart. I always have been. And so I'm coming into this extraordinary group as a co-creator with you, Debbie, because when you first shared, I'm creating this thing and this is the vision to help people be more visible and to celebrate people, I was like, I'm in. Done. I'm in. I think that's what dance is. I really do. I think that for me, my heart is always in building people up. It's always been that way. For as long as I can remember, I have always wanted to teach dance in the classroom, even when I was a kid. And maybe that didn't always come across great when I was like 10 years old trying to teach the other 10-year-olds. But, like it was all from a good place, and it's one of those things where I like to see possibility. That was your word that you shared on Wednesday. I
Wednesday.
like I like to see possibility in everyone, and I look for it. And so when you said visibility, I was like, I think we should all be more visible. I really do, and even for ourselves. I've said this, I think maybe the other day in one of my personal communities, but when we brush our teeth, even like people don't even look at themselves in the mirror in the bathroom. They don't even want to be visible to themselves, and it's such a big thing. And when you can start to build your confidence in yourself, it changes everything about your life, everything. And a big part of confidence is visibility. I don't want to be in the picture with the kids. I don't want people to see me or hear me speak, and I hate my voice and da 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 da. So yeah, once you started, I was like, I am in. That is, I'm all for this. How can I help? What can I do? What can I speak about? So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super excited to have you. I love working with somebody like this that is just like sees the possibilities, the bigger picture than just this is a visibility challenge. No, it's
Oh,
more than 3 days. It's more than just a conversation. There's so much more happening, and there's so much growth for ourselves, for our families, for those our children and my grandchildren that are watching me do this. There's growth for everybody. And I'm all about the ripple effect, and watching that happen across the world has been fabulous.
yes.
But you
Agreed.
talk, you hit on a lot of things of like, oh, I want to hide from the picture. I want to stand in the back. Is that from experience, Ashley? Have you ever felt that way that you did, or are you kind of that person that notices the person that's hiding and says, come up and claim your spot?
Yeah, I'm that one. I've never really been one to hide, but I have noticed in experiences in life, people that I love very dearly, my own mom, and if like I wish my mom could, maybe she'll be watching this interview. I don't know, but I see when people, especially people older than me, I see when they kind of hide or when they diminish themselves, and when I see people that are older than me doing that, and I'm 40, and so even when I was a kid, like 17-year-olds, when I was 14, and I've always seen that. And I think when you're older and you are showing that example, it says a lot. And
Mm,
unconsciously, you're not doing it on purpose. But I am one of my biggest, I feel like my biggest pillars is lead by example.
mhm.
And so the minute that I became a mom, I was like, I've always wanted to be a mom, but like, and so always just trying to find ways that I can lead for my children by example. And when you say like hiding, and I don't think I'm the best at any one thing in this world. I don't think it's an ego or a thing like that. It's a knowing that we all are learning every day. And it's a putting it into perspective that, you can be big and you can play full out and not know what the heck you're doing. It's okay. And it's actually the norm. Like I look at people that are super successful in different quadrants of our lives. And I was just talking to some dear friends last night, they're super successful and they must be making so much money. And I'm like, yes, but yes, but like that doesn't mean they have it all together. We're all just human beings. And my mom used to say when I was little, I don't even know why this just popped in my head, but she used to say, we all put our pants on the same way. I was like, yeah, like, but I have still seen, I think primarily, Debbie, I noticed it when I was little because the education in my personal family was not as high up as a lot of families. Like I was of my siblings, I was the first one to graduate high school, let alone
Mhm.
go to community college and like all that. But I think because of the education is where it really did start for me. Like I would see when people weren't as educated, whatever that means, because there's a whole conversation there,
Yeah.
they would feel less than,
Yeah.
and oh, that's the doctor's kid. And I was like, what is that? Why do I care? I don't care that their dad's a doctor. Like she goes to school with me, and I saw that as it always stood out like a red flag. Like, why does it matter? And so I
Yeah.
think it all stems from that, Debbie, that visibility of like, titles are titles. They don't make you any better or worse or different. It's just education and confidence in yourself. So we could
Yeah.
say about this stuff, but
Well, and let's have a bigger conversation on that at some time because I believe the exact same thing. There was, I played small and felt small for a long time because society didn't say I had a title. And it really took me into claiming my own credibility, who I am. And again, we've had conversations all the way through this is knowing who you are and that you were born for greatness with greatness inside of you is a whole other conversation than putting you born with a title on your head. Certain families. And so, not saying that there's anything wrong with those amazing people that got born into an amazing family, but for us that didn't and felt less than because society told us, like, said things like that. Oh, that's the doctor's child. And like, we grew up next to the doctor's child or whatever, and we knew that they were just an ordinary kid, just like us. But people were putting them on a pedestal because of something. And so that resonated very deeply with me as you said that. I am also somebody that fights for the underdog. In fact, it probably is as much as a good thing. It's also been a hindrance in my life because I have spent so much time helping the underdog. I'll fight tooth and nail for them, but I often didn't fight for myself. And so it's in this last 10 years that the leader in me that's always been there has actually claimed my spot as a leader with some really important skills instead of just lifting everybody else up and saying, look at this amazing person. But it's coming full circle because this is why this group is here. I get to do both. I get to lead this beautiful community of co-creators and we get to do this together and I get to celebrate. And so I am in my happy place right now. My life is, I can't wipe the smile off of my face because everything feels like it come full circle. Ashley, let's go back to, I feel like it's conscious parenting, and you might have a different title for that. But I love that you share that you lead by example. It's really important for you, to you, that your kids see you doing this stuff, that they recognize that you're actually making conscious choices every single day on how you're showing up. Do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
yeah. That's the most important thing to me in the world. I want to say something though, really quick about what you just said, Debbie, and then I'll come back to that. I'm holding my dance studio pin. So when you said for 10 years, it wasn't until like the last 10 years because you would fight for everybody else. I think you actually hit on something that's important is that, by being visible and by being in your own extraordinary, what that is for you, knowing that you fight for the underdog. I think that's how we actually bring more joy and prosperity and abundance and love and kindness and all the good stuff into our lives is when we pour out into other people. And I think that that's just part of the cycle. So you did that for so long so that you could get to the idea of like spinning that wheel enough that you were like, I do the same thing. I mean, like you said in the beginning, if I see a kid in the back, I'm like, hey, you by yourself, and I'll do it with them and I'll pour into them and in a very loving and nurturing way, not like your turn, and that then pours into me. So I think the more we do that, it is very important. It's definitely not a hindrance at all. It's part of the process. It's so good. But into the conscious parenting, that word probably has a whole title to its, like a definition to that title. And I don't even know what that would be, honestly. I don't, when it comes to parenting, this is one for sure that I try to stay away from labels, because I was the one that kind of just did it my own way from like the moment that I found out I was pregnant. And I did it that way, trusting my own process, because honestly, this is what the whole, in my personal opinion, this is what my entire existence on this planet is all about. That's it. That's it. Like anything else is just like the amplification of Ashley, but parenting is like, that's what I was here. I'm a woman. I was born to be able to have children, and I get to have children. Like what I do from this point on is just being the best version of me, hopefully. But so when I found out I was pregnant, we knew right away, like my husband and I had a very short conversation, because it was just like, check it off, done. We know we're doing that. I did home births for all three of my kids. And so that was different from anybody that I knew. And even when I did home births, they were like, read these things and do these things. I'm like, I don't need to. I never read them. I never did any of the classes. I definitely learned through trial and error with breastfeeding. That was painful, but live and learn, and to each their own. And then it came time for my kids to go into like school age. So we did preschool for a bit, but I just didn't, you have to check in with yourself. And this is no judgment for anybody. I do not think that there is a one way for anything. And so for me, when I checked into myself, I was like, I just couldn't see how the right decision was to do what everybody else was doing, so that I knew. And so I thought, well, let me just go and tour all these schools, and I'll, get all this information. And that was crazy overwhelming, by the way. Touring like 7 elementary schools. I was like, this is not college. We're just supposed to go to the neighborhood school. This is ridiculous. And so I ended up getting overwhelmed. And when I get overwhelmed, I'm like, well, forget it. Like, I'm just going to make a decision. And that was, I'm just going to homeschool. I'm not going to do any of that. And so I started homeschooling. And that was by like a fluke. Like I didn't plan that. And so I want to say that leading by example has really been part of the homeschool journey. It's something that I've learned is incredibly important through the homeschooling process. Like I didn't get pregnant with my kids and go, I'm going to lead by example. That wasn't even there. That was like, I'm going to survive. I'm going to sleep when I can. I'm going to nurse this baby and hopefully make enough milk and get like back into shape. Like that's all I could think about. And be a good mom, but the homeschooling journey has really been like instrumental in my journey as a woman, because as I'm teaching my kids how to read and how to sound out every letter, and then how to write the letters in uppercase and lowercase, and how to put these diphthongs together to make different sounds. And I'm like, gosh, I can totally do this. I don't need a teacher to teach my kid. Okay, so if I can do this, I can do, what else can I do? And it just has always opened this door to what else is possible. And so leading by example was birthed in homeschooling, because when my kids are looking at me as their teacher and their mom, I'm wearing very important hats. And so when I go to sleep at night, I'm like, did I do the best I could to teach my kids something today? I don't care what that something is, anything. And what did I teach them? And so like, if we go to the visibility challenge, like, I guess, if you ask, where did that come from for me? Was there ever a time where I didn't feel visible? Yeah, I think maybe actually now that we're talking about it and we're getting deeper in it, yeah, there was. So a few years back, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years, probably 3 years, I was upstairs in our laundry room doing laundry and having this like extreme gratitude for like holding the soccer uniform. I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky my kid gets to do soccer. And we moved to Raleigh so we could be in a big city where my kids could have like exposure to good coaches and good programs. And my daughters could do dance and have exposure to good like coaches, same thing. And I'm like, gosh, I'm so lucky. Like we have good teachers in their lives, good coaches in their lives. I get to drive them to all their activities. I get to watch them practice. And I'm like, these thoughts were in my head, Debbie. And then all of a sudden I was like, I don't even know what happened. Like you turn and you grab the next thing, the towel or something. And all of a sudden your life is like, shoom, whiplash. And you're like, I should be doing more than just laundry. More value than just laundry. Like I was like, am I on a period? What is going on? And all of a sudden it was like no, Ash, like actually thinking to myself, knock it off. You're not a victim. You don't have to do the laundry. If you want to, don't do the laundry and go do something else. But in that moment, I was like, well, what else would you even do? You haven't even, you kind of gave up your ability to own a dance studio because you turned one down 3 or 4 times here in Raleigh. Somebody had asked me. So I was kind of like beating myself up. And my husband walked by and I tried to play tough. And he's like, what's wrong? And I was crying. And I was like, nothing. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I don't know. And he's like, okay. And he gets walks away. And then I was like, sure. And so he comes back. And I was like, I have more value than laundry. I have more value than cleaning the house. I can do more. I know I can. And he looked right at me and he was like, then do it. Like, do it. And that's where it started. I think I realized in that moment, like, he's like, we can hire somebody if we need help. And I'm like, no, we can't. We cannot. We don't have the funds for that. There's no way. And I don't even know if I want somebody in my house. Like I just, and I was fighting it. But I'm like, I hear my mom's voice again, like all these little momisms, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And I was like, ugh. So it started there, Debbie. And then I saw some stuff from Mastermind Company. And that was my first deep dive into like personal development, other than reading a book about personal development. And that was like,
Oh my goodness.
go. And
You
so,
you took us on such a journey, and I think it's so important for people to hear themselves in your story. We
yeah.
all have that line in the sand moment where we thought that life was a certain way, and then all of a sudden, like you said, the whiplash, and you're like, oh, there's another perspective here. There's a whole other level that I wasn't even seeing.
Well,
And
and you hear it for a while. It's like a
oh
gentle
yeah,
knock. Like,
whispers.
yeah, you could do more than just, laundry, and that's an example, but like you could create, you could take more students because I've always done private lessons with kids. I always taught
Yeah.
dance. You could take on a few more students. You can do it. And then no, you can't. That'll interfere with soccer. That'll interfere with dance or like teaching or whatever. Like the excuse, the battle, the inner. So we all hear it. And I want to speak for moms because I think mom guilt is real and it's very, very heavy. And I think that women, and that's why I love that this is a women's community, because I think that oftentimes we have to go, kind of going back to what we were saying, Debbie, about the titles. It's like, well, if I don't have this title that's so amazing, and if I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or I'm just a homeschooling mom, or I'm just a mom that's a working mom, whatever your mom title is, then I'm not good enough. And it's like, it's so hard, like stop beating ourselves up. Just take the action that lights you up every day. And so leading by example for my kids was, wait, I don't want my daughters to do exactly what I'm doing. And I'm modeling this. And one of the conversations one time with my daughter was, one of my daughters was, she said, when I grow up, I want to be a mom and I want to stay at home. And I love that because I was like, I must be doing something right if she wants to do that, if she's aspiring, like that's cool. But also, Debbie, I felt a little sad because I was like, yeah, but you can do that and something else. Like you can do, and that was probably that little one back there, like wherever it is, that one, like she's the one that was like, but I just want to be, and I was like, yeah, but what do you love to do? Like, what else do you, why you can do so much in this lifetime. And I was like, if I'm going to say that, I have to model that. I
Mm.
cannot, I cannot say one thing and do another. I cannot. That's being a hypocrite. And so it started there. It was like, okay, she sees me doing this. I need her to see me falling in love with more things than just like the typical. And so, yeah, lead by example. It started there. It started with homeschooling, falling in love with it, knowing that I wasn't going to sacrifice it, and then realizing that I had maybe sacrificed my own personal love for other things just a tiny bit more than I wanted to, and just course correcting. Like, no, okay, hang on.
Wow, I love this so much. Our time goes so quickly that I'm just
It
like, I
does.
have all these questions. So right now, if you guys are watching us live, tell us you're watching us live because I want to know who this is resonating with. And then, of course, if you're watching on our replay, let us know where you're watching from. That's also very important as we have a global audience. But Ashley, now you actually, your daughter is your greatest teacher, and you actually stepped into the full light here. And now what are you doing? What is the extraordinary move that you made?
Oh, it's so good, Debbie. So good. I teach dance. I share joy. I share healthy movement. I share encouragement and confidence and empowerment with people worldwide. And like, when I tell you, like when you said you wake up smiling, I don't even know if I am not, I think I'm smiling in my sleep. Like it sounds ridiculous, but I love every aspect of what I'm doing so much that it, like, you know, when your heart just feels so full and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I love you so much.
Oh no, did we lose her? I didn't know for sure if you're muted. I didn't know for sure if you would be able to come back on, because we're just about at the end of the interview. So Lena is next and she's watching. So we'll just close this off in the perfect way, in the perfect amount of time. We won't rush. But yeah,
Yes.
Ashley, you were just talking and you turned and you just like froze and then you disappeared.
It did like a weird, it usually does like a low bandwidth thing, but it just did like a cut me off. And I'm like, no, that's not okay. I'm not done. Thank you so much. I'll be back. And just, so I was watching you on the phone really quick while it was rebuffering, but we're here. Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah. Do you remember what your last words were? Because
You know, I don't know
okay.
exactly what I was saying, but I think it just, we were talking in general about just the awareness of creating something that you love. And that doesn't have to be a business, it doesn't have to be a thing that has a title attached to it, like a big, massive thing that you're going to get a stamp and say, oh, I did that, I wrote a book, or I did that. You don't have to have any of that. I think that it's just truly just finding joy in your day, and your day should never look like anybody else's day. And so, like, even as I'm sharing everything that I'm sharing, I just don't want it to ever come across to people that, oh, well, Ashley only thinks that you should homeschool, or Ashley believes that you should. Like, I don't. I just believe that everyone has their own extraordinary thing to them. And that I think you have to lean into it. And you have to, if you hear the whisper that, like, I desire to do more. That was what it was for me. I want more. I need to do more. Lean in and don't dismiss it. And don't just be like, well, I can't. Catch yourself, and that takes a lot of training and a lot of noticing. But that's what we're here for. That's what this group is here for.
Yeah, I was just going to say that that's the benefit of hanging around people that believe in this type of possibility is that you'll start catching yourself sooner with those old reframes, those old stories that are going through of why it can't happen. Because the whisper of that you want it is first, and then the awareness of where the gap is. I think I say I want this, but I'm not taking any action towards it. What is the gap there? And then recognizing that we're in this life doing the best we can. And when we surround ourselves with people that get that, they see the best in you and mirror it back to you so that you have even more courage, more clarity, more acceptance of self, which when we really know who we are and we can love ourselves unconditionally, receive the love unconditionally, it opens up completely a different life for us.
Yeah, all of that. And I mean, I think that it's the most important thing is your environment. And that could even mean, doesn't have to mean the people, even. It could mean the stuff in your space. I think
Mm.
I think you have to be very protective of your space and your environment and the people you surround yourselves with, and everything else just kind of eventually, like, you have a friend that you'll constantly pour into, the underdog that we constantly pour into, and eventually they see it, they hear it, and then you see it and you hear it. And I just think everything you said, I have in my coaching, I teach dance, yes, but I have coaching in there too. And I have a dance framework, which is an acronym for dance, which is decide, number one, A, aligned action, N, notice, C, create, and E, energy. And it's everything you just said. And so it's one step at a time. Like, if the pun and the analogies just can't stop coming, it's just one step at a time, one step at a time. And if you're in a group like this, I feel like that's a massive step. Honestly, surrounding yourself and staying tuned in. So yeah,
Mm.
so good.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on here and for just allowing us to celebrate you and share your extraordinary stories of extraordinary moves with the world. It's just been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you all for whoever's watching, but also Debbie for creating this so that we can be co-creators with you. I really appreciate it.
So good.